Hello, and welcome to my latest video. Today I am going to be playing Nancy Drew, Message in a Haunted Mansion. This is the third of the Nancy Drew games released by her Interactive in 2000. It is also one of my favorite games. It's tied in first place with Treasure in a Royal Tower. It's also the second game that I ever played. I distinctly remember the moment I was given the game. It was at breakfast one morning before school, which was a little mean because I had to wait the whole day before I could play it. But it was well worth that wait. There will be a spoiler alert because of course I'm going to be playing the whole game, which will mean we're going to get to a culprit, and I might even bring it up before we reach that point. So without further ado, let's jump into one of the best games from the Nancy Drew series, Message in a Haunted Mansion.
Hi, it's Nancy Drew. Welcome to my latest cyber mystery, Message in a Haunted Mansion. Choose your difficulty level to start off. If you're new to adventure games, you might want to click on the tutorial button to learn how to play the game.
This is our first instance of the tutorial option. We did not have this in the first two games, though we did have three options at the beginning of Secrets Can Kill and Stay Tuned for Danger. They were all about detective levels, so our difficulty to play the game. And I do really like that the background of the book here is of the mansion that we are staying at. And I'm going to select Senior Detective to play because I like the harder puzzles. What a great way to start this
Hello
game.
from stormy San Francisco. This time I'm staying in a beautiful Victorian mansion. You'd love the room I'm in. It's full of old Chinese furnishings and some interesting knickknacks. The owner of the house, Rose Green, is a friend of Hannah and asked me to come out and help her with some renovation work. She and her friend Abby hope to turn the place into a bed and breakfast by next month. But from what I gathered, Rose isn't sure if she can open in time. Ever since they started the renovations, they've had a lot of accidents. Could it be just bad luck, or is there something more sinister at work? I'm sure I'll find out. Love, Nancy.
I love that opening. I love that we see the mansion and we hear the thunder and see the lightning, and then the lone light comes on in the mansion. Just really sets the mood and makes it sort of creepy, but in sort of in a good way. I love all the furnishings in this room, all the things you can look at, all the detail. It's so cool. And here we have a clue that we will need later on in the game.
It's stuck.
I wonder what first prompted me to look at this the first time I played the game. Not something you'd normally think to just go investigate. The bedpost. I really like this idea of the journal, which does get updated throughout the gameplay. It's not something I ever really relied on. I tended to forget about it. Every now and then I might come into Nancy's room and remember, oh right, there's a journal, let's see what's been updated. But I certainly didn't rely on it for information or to keep clues noted. And I love this little poem here. I think I used this in a signature on the message boards at one point. I think a lot of people use this as a signature. It just sounds lovely, and of course it's a big part of the game. You don't realize it right away, but it's there intentionally.
It's stuck.
I love this music. It's sort of eerie. Let's go speak with Rose first thing.
Hello, Nancy. I'm very glad you could come out here. We can really use your help, seeing how far we are behind schedule. Are you all ready to do some renovation work?
And I'm going to point this out again. I did this in the first two videos. We get options. We don't have one set means of responding to Rose. We get to choose which of, you know, just two options, but still options for how we'd like to answer her.
I sure am. This house must have quite a history. What do you know about it?
Not very much, but Abby found some interesting old papers that might give us clues about the history of the house. They're in the parlor if you want to take a peek. There's also an old-time saloon in the basement, so it's possible the house was once a hotel.
A saloon? Oh, this place really does have a history. Who was the original owner?
Almost all the records on these old houses were destroyed in the Great Earthquake, so we don't know much about the origins of the place. Abby thinks all our accidents were caused by some restless spirit or a curse. I'm not one to believe in bad luck, but it's been one thing after another. Maybe Charlie doesn't have the expertise for these renovations, but his rates are so affordable. I sometimes wonder, though, if this old house would be worth more burned to the ground. Enough chit-chat. Hannah tells me you're a real pro with puzzles.
Yes, I am.
Take a look in the corner. Those wood tiles should fit inside the inlay pattern of the floor. Abby and I tried for hours, but it's just too complicated. I'm sorry for not introducing you around, but everyone posts their schedule here in the dining room. It's kind of like Command Central. Let me know how far you get with that puzzle. And thanks again for helping us, Nancy.
Alright, so we're gonna go straight to this puzzle. I do think I got stuck on this the first time I played, but since then it's actually, in my opinion, pretty easy. Can I pick up this puzzle piece? I have this little recording bar, but it's not letting me pick up the piece. This is potentially going to be a bit of a problem. I should say, I have a recording bar here that you can't see. I can see it, but in the finished video, it's not present. Oh, there we go. I don't know if that's right. It looks right. Good, I didn't want to have to put that back down and try and grab it again. That might be correct. It looks pretty good. Those lines look like they line up. Same with those. Which one is it going to be? I guess I'll just try them. Actually, those look like they line up. That might be the right one. Although I think that might go here. Well, we'll see. I might have to rearrange a few of these. I don't like the look of that. I also really don't like the look of that. Although, let's see. Does that look right? It's a possibility. Oh no, that was correct.
I did it!
Lovely, one try.
How's that inlay puzzle coming along?
It is kind of funny that we get the option to say that it hasn't been finished, even though it has. Maybe just because they didn't want one single selection available? I don't know.
I finished it! Wonderful! But now I've got something else for you. I set up a ladder upstairs so you can chip off the broken tiles on the hallway ceiling. You'll need to look around for a chisel or paint scraper for the job. I'm not sure where Charlie keeps them.
I can see you're busy. I'll let you go.
Bye, Nancy.
Alright. Let's look around the room a little bit here. Our ever-important schedule. So Lewis won't be in until noon. Charlie's basically there during the day. Abby's out for part of the afternoon and evening. this is the Hanzi symbol for fire. That will be important later on. Now let's check out this dumbwaiter.
The rope is cut.
Rats. Now we'll figure that out later. Now let's go meet Charlie. I love going down to the saloon. Former saloon. Music change once you enter this space. Sort of haunting with this light, sort of echoing piano key music. It's lovely, really. So if you wanted to make some drinks, got some recipes here. Oh, I should note now, I sort of pointed this out in the first game, Secrets Can Kill. Our cursor, to move side to side, remained the magnifying glass, but highlighted in blue. We now have arrows, which is far simpler than trying to figure out a colored magnifying glass for different things. You still have it highlighted in red when you can move forward and examine an object.
It's stuck.
But you get these arrows like that U-turn shaped arrow to back away. And not right now, but you get arrows pointing to the side when you want to turn. I don't actually need to play that just yet. A nice old-fashioned squeak. Here we have the symbol for river. Let's talk to Charlie.
Hi, you must be Nancy. My name's Charlie.
Let's not jump right to accidents.
Hi, Charlie. You must have a lot of experience to work on such a big house.
No, but I learned quickly. Even Lewis said so. Have you met him yet? He's helping Rose with the house. Yeah, he showed me how to do some of the remodeling work.
I like that he's modest. He doesn't lie and say that he's done a whole bunch of work. He admits that he took advice and has learned. It's pretty nice.
No, I haven't met him yet. Does he work for Rose?
He's an antique dealer, I think. I guess he does consulting work for Rose, like on Victorian furnishings and stuff.
Do you have any idea why there's been so many accidents on this project?
I have no idea. People are blaming me, but it's not my fault. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this work. Listen, Nancy, I really need to get back to work. I'm repairing some floorboards, so be careful walking around. Rose is looking for you earlier. Maybe she has something for you to do. See ya.
That's all we can do for now. Later on we can explore more of the saloon, but not while Charlie is present. Lovely phoenix emblem on the floor. What's the time? 10:15, so Lewis isn't around yet. Might still go to the library. Here we have another change of music. It's great. Oops. Didn't mean to open that again. At some point, if you come back, the neck of this, I don't know if this is meant to be another phoenix or a swan, but it moves. Super creepy. Also super creepy, and I love it. papers.
It's good to know it's here.
Yep, very handy, very important, as we will discover later. Or we might not. There is a way to play this game, and spoiler alert, without having the fire happen. I've had that happen a fair few times. So we'll see if it happens this time. Chances are it will. Probably because I've looked at these papers. If I hadn't looked at them, I wonder if that would affect whether or not the fire occurs, because these letters, pardon me, get burned. Let's call Emily.
This is Emily.
Hi, Emily. It's Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew? I haven't heard from you in ages. How's Hannah in River Heights? You're not in San Francisco, are you, my dear?
I sure am. I'm staying with Rose Green, a friend of Hannah's, in a Victorian mansion. I'm helping out with renovations.
You know, you're lucky you caught me at home. I've been traveling most of these days, but after that crazy tour of Egypt. By the way, riding a camel is not as easy as it looks. My editor gave me an assignment right here in town. It'll be on the Dragons of San Francisco.
This is a little off topic, but because we're speaking with Emily over the phone, it's reminded me. So she is a character in the books. I'm assuming she's in the book Message in a Haunted Mansion. I will be rereading that soon. But I do recall her being in another book that I believe takes place in San Fran. And it's about a bank robbery, I believe. So it's possible that she's a book character on more than one occasion, unless they happen to take her from that book when they were making this game. I'm going to have to look at that when I reread the book soon.
I hope you won't be riding them. What were you doing in Egypt?
Oh, you know, the usual. Pyramids, bazaars, the Sphinx. But what are you up to, Nancy? Why'd you call? Is there anything I can help you out with?
Can you tell me about the Chinese writing system? I seem to come across a lot of Chinese symbols.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. The Chinese have been an important part of San Francisco history for over 100 years. The symbols are called Hanzi, and each one represents a particular thing, or an idea, or an action. You find them all over on business cards, takeout cartons, artwork.
We certainly see them on takeout cartons and artwork. We see them on business papers.
I found some old papers in the house, plus a page from a phone directory dated 1894.
Oh, that sounds valuable. It's hard to find old documents like that before 1906.
And then we're going to sort of end this conversation in sort of a brief, no, pardon me, not a brief way, but sort of a brusque way.
I should get going. Goodbye, Emily.
Goodbye, Nancy.
You're talking about history and suddenly you're like, well, I should go. Just gonna cut that phone call short. Yeah, so Lewis isn't here because he doesn't arrive until noon, and it's, oh, it just changed to 11:30. It's too bad that he doesn't enter the room when you're here, come 12. I really liked, and they do this with all the games, but if there's a puzzle and it involves a skill you don't already have, such as playing piano, you have a way to learn it in-game. So we do need to play the piano a little bit at one point. So this book lets us know which keys are which on the piano. Four-sided box.
It won't fit.
That's sort of an odd thing to say, given that I didn't try to put anything there.
It won't fit.
Mm-mm.
It's stuck.
Now, why would you try to pull that in the first place? I don't know. And now, if you needed to learn how to read music, this book gives you that information. So the combination of the two music books, one piano, one music theory, help you to solve a puzzle that comes up in a little while if you don't already happen to have this skill set. If you haven't learned it through music lessons or school. I could snoop on the laptop, but I'm not going to do that just yet. How do I leave? I feel like I'm actually stuck.
I need a disc.
Oh, there we go. I was expecting to have to move backward, instead you just move forward through the desk. Okay. Could go meet Abby. Instead, let's go look at these.
It's missing an eye.
This one's not.
I see you.
Super creepy. I see you. Terrified my sister once when I was playing this and she was watching me and she was not expecting it. I laugh. She doesn't respond quite the same way. She was really little.
It's locked.
Pretty cool find. I can't remember. It's chilling music. It's not music, a chilling sound effect. Yeah, there we go. Put you away. Let's see. Has this been updated? Oh, a little bit. And there's that music change as soon as we leave the room. Let's go meet Abby.
Nancy, I see you've arrived safely from your long journey. But I'm sensing an aura of danger around you. I can tell you're an inquisitive type, a little skeptical, and that you don't believe in ghosts.
That sounds like a pretty good description of me.
And you do?
I sense a very strong but restless spirit within these walls. And a restless spirit can soon become an angry spirit.
Who could this restless spirit be?
I'm not sure, but for some reason the name Valdez has a strong connection with this mansion.
Do you have any more information on Mr. Valdez?
Now, if you will please excuse me, I need to prepare myself for this evening. At that time, more will be revealed.
Sort of a neat, it's not a quirk, but neat element they've given to Abby. Yes, this is the right set of doors.
How are the tiles coming along?
Again, I get to say that I'm not done, but I am.
I'm all finished, but you should know what I found.
I'm sure it's very interesting, but unless it's really important, I've got other things to worry about. Let's see. If you're any good at fixing things, there's a dumbwaiter in the hallway that's not working.
Okay. Well, now we have a lot of things we can talk about. Let's go ahead and do that.
Where did Abby find those papers that are in the parlor?
She told me they were in her room, which surprised me since it was completely empty when we moved in. Now the room you're staying in was crammed with furniture. I think most of it was original with the house.
How did you meet Abby?
She was the drama coach back in River Heights, and we worked on a couple of plays together. My bid on this house was too low, so she pitched in her savings to help me get the place. If it weren't for Abby, I couldn't have afforded this place.
What a nice gesture.
How did you find Charlie?
He just showed up one day. It was really odd. I remember Abby and I were in the basement talking about hiring someone to help us. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang and there stood Charlie, looking for work.
Have you heard of someone named Lizzie Applegate?
No, I haven't.
Whose laptop is that in the library?
Lewis leaves it here, but he doesn't like people to use it. He said he's had trouble with viruses lately.
What is Abby planning for tonight?
She's putting on some kind of seance tonight to contact these ghosts or whatever she thinks is causing all of these accidents.
I can see you're busy. I'll let you go.
Don't work too hard.
Okay, so with that we'll leave. And Lewis should be in the library now. Ooh. Nice touch.
Hello. I was so wrapped up in my book, I didn't hear you come in. My name is Lewis Chandler.
Pleased to meet you. My name is Nancy Drew. Are you a friend of Rose?
Yes, I'd like to think so, but I'm an antique dealer and a client told me that Rose and Abby had recently acquired the estate. I'm an authority on the Victorian era, so they were only too happy to let me use the library in exchange for my advice on the renovations.
You must know a lot about the house's history.
Actually, I'm a bit in the dark about this particular property. However, as far as Victorian mansions go, I don't see anything remarkable about this one.
Abby thinks the mansion is haunted.
Does she? There have been documented cases of hauntings in older mansions. And I might add, not all of the hauntings were by friendly spirits.
Do you think a ghost is causing these accidents?
Accidents? I know Rose has mentioned some inconveniences like that wall covering and the light supplies, but I would hardly call those accidents. I'm sorry, but I'm quite busy at the moment, and although I'd like to talk, I really don't have the time. Please, excuse me.
Okay, and now we've met all of the characters in the game. Again, I just love that change in music when you get to a new area. It's done really well and it works really well in this game. Get rid of the creaking stairs. And if you do this too early, you get in trouble. I'm just going to lower it by 1 in anticipation for what's to come. Let's go speak with Abby. We might be able to get the seance started.
The spirits wish to speak to you, Nancy. Tonight, I will channel their energies to deliver a message. Meet me down in the basement, if you dare.
Ooh.
Please sit down.
We really don't have time for this.
Let us begin. We are gathered here tonight to contact the shades of those who have passed before us. Gaze into the crystal ball. It will answer all of our questions.
What's that?
Who has called me forth from the great beyond?
We have. Are you the spirit known as Valdez?
I was once called that in the world of the living.
Are you the spirit who has caused these accidents?
I have come back searching for her, my wife. Where can she be?
The spirits have spoken. The seance is over.
We've got a busy day tomorrow, and no more time for these games, Abby. And make sure you blow out the candles on your way up. I don't want to wake up and find the house on fire.
No, that'll happen later. I really like the seance, and part of it gets explained. It's something they could explain further, how some of the effects were done. But overall, I think it's a really neat scene. It really sets the tone for this game. Creepy shadow. And now that everyone should be in bed, we're going to do some nighttime snooping. I love it. One of my favorite things about the games is when you can do your snooping at night. Like it just feels exciting, like if you could do that in real life. It would be just as exciting and thrilling. So here we see the table's been rigged. So at least with the crystal ball, that's been explained. The piano and the mirror behind the bar, not exactly explained.
It's stuck.
Who keeps a key in a cash register? Seems an odd place. Also creepy and great. They really make you feel like you're being watched in this game. The spookiness factor is very well executed. I missed something in here earlier. Where? Here? Yes. Go up the creaking stairs. Oh, you can hear Abby snoring. Ooh. Oh, rats in my recording box is in the way. Yeah. So normally you can unscrew this last screw. I can't, which is a nuisance because of my equipment. But you can see a speaker, and that's how sound is being transmitted through the house, or at least through the upper floor. And yes, we want, this is what I consider the fancy key to open the door. A mysterious storybook. And then we use what I call the less fancy key to open the fancy desk. And I can't see this. Fortunately, I have the notes memorized, but we are looking at the ones that sort of have these sort of like thumbprints over the notes. There's Miss Lizzie Applegate. And this is beginning, right? Yeah. All we need to look at for now. We'll come back to that desk in a little while. don't know why I'm bothering to look at the books, they're not important. Habit, I guess. Creepy doll's head. Ugh. Some old gazettes. And then, for a while we're gonna think we're stuck. We're not.
It's stuck.
Only temporarily. Okay. Just trying to think of all the things we can do right now. Alright. Loud creak. Ooh. Forgot that happened. Again, all these little elements to make the game extra spooky. They're done very well. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the dumbwaiter. So we have, in air quotes, fixed the dumbwaiter. Our out-of-the-box thinking. There's the snoring. Come on. There we go. There's I. It's quite the portrait. Okay, that piece will go there. I think that's the middle one. Et voila. And now we can pull this. Ooh, more sort of eerie but great piano music. You can spy on someone in the room. How cool! And you can sort of see the outline of someone's face here. I love that there's this hidden room behind a door. It's just so cool. I wish I had that in my own house. Let's go back down to the basement.
It's so dark in here.
Fortunately, I remembered to get the lamp first, so we don't fall down that hole. Here we are behind the mirror of the saloon bar. Here we can see evidence that Charlie's been staying here. That's funny, when this is on the floor, the label is green, but as soon as you pick it up, it's purple. Continuity error. I really like this. I'm learning a lot, and I'm very proud of the work I'm doing. Still in between places. Charlie seems like a genuinely nice person. A little down on his luck, not fully willing to admit that. But a decent human being, I think. Just debating whether or not to look at the table where Rose normally sits, but we don't have to. There's other stuff in that area that I didn't look at either. Okay. Now, we'll pretend I don't actually feel like doing the maze. Let's see if I've remembered this. Yes, so if you already know the login and password from playing this previously or having found the answer online, you can use it. You don't have to find the answers in game. If you don't find the answer or don't know it, you can do the maze game, which gets you signed in. It's just kind of a hassle, and I didn't feel like doing it. I don't like doing the mazes. Oh no. I have a feeling I have to click up here. Oh no, there we go, good. Thought I was gonna have to stop the recording because again, this recording box you can't see is in my way and I can't press anything in this zone. So there's the laptop password if you did the maze to get into the computer. And then we need the briefcase combination. We won't use it right away, but we do need to note it down. And I have my old notes from when I was a kid, so I'm not actually going to copy anything down for this playthrough. And oh, I forgot to put the disc in. Let's go back. Not Louise. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, so here's the maze. And if you press M on your keyboard at home, it gives you the actual maze so you can go through it. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to spell Lewis, not Louise. And kind of go through this term paper of Charlie's. Well, there's not much there. Just so that we can ask him about it later. And the rest aren't worth clicking. Right, go forward through the desk. I think that's all we can do right now. Yes. I love this music. It's one of my favorite tracks in this game. Ooh, 12:30. Lewis arrives at noon. If I go and talk to everybody, yeah, 10 o'clock should be fine. Nancy slept in.
Morning, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're convinced now that the spirits are with us. These ghosts are here to stay.
Let's just
I
get
found
to the
out how
point.
you rigged the seance table with a projector. That was a pretty good show you gave.
Okay, so I staged part of the seance. But that still doesn't mean this place isn't haunted. Seances were very popular during the Victorian era, and I plan to entertain our guests with them. It'll be a great way to promote the place.
Have you been creating these accidents to help your promotion?
Of course not. I've had nothing to do with these accidents. They cost us both time and money. If you want to find out who's behind the accidents, ask our resident handyman.
So she doesn't like Charlie, and we'll ask her about that. And I love her reaction, her first yuck, when she responds to Nancy's question.
Do you mean Charlie?
Ugh, it's clear to me that Charlie's totally responsible for the accidents. Who else could it have been? He's a really nice kid, but he has no idea what he's doing. Unfortunately, Rose doesn't want to fire him. And there's something suspicious about him.
Yeah, I like this little, sound reaction. It's not strictly word dialogue, but she makes this sort of response, which I just think is a nice touch. Because people do that in real life, right? It's not just words, but we react with sounds. So I've always really appreciated that addition to her piece of dialogue there.
What do you mean?
The other other day, I was down in the basement working for over an hour, and suddenly he sneaks up on me. I bet he was down there the whole time, watching me.
Yeah, that would be creepy. But of course, as we now know, he's been sort of camping out in the basement. That's his home, which the residents here don't realize.
Do you know much about Lewis? It must be great having your own expert on Victorians.
He owns Chandler Interiors, a very reputable antique store. I'm sure his clients will be quite interested in our bed and breakfast once they hear about our resident ghost.
How long have you known Rose?
A couple of years. She has good business sense, but I think she needs to think more about advertising. Otherwise, we're just like all the other B&Bs in this town, and believe me, there's plenty of them.
I heard someone crying in the hallway. Was that you?
I told you the spirits were interested in you. Was it a woman crying?
Yes, it was. How did you know?
It must be one of our phantom residents.
Do you think it was a ghost?
Well, it wasn't me crying out there.
No, but it was your equipment that created the crying. I'm actually going to skip this thing about the papers because I'm wondering if I don't mention it to her, can we still bypass the fire that happens in the parlor?
Does Charlie live around here?
I'm not sure. He said he's between apartments. I think he said he's staying with friends until he can find a place of his own.
Between apartments? That seems kind of odd.
Not for San Francisco. Rents are really high, and there are so many kids thinking they can find cheap housing out here. It's sad to say, but a lot of them end up on the streets.
Yeah, rent and housing prices now in the present, you know, all these 22 years later, seem to be super high everywhere.
I'll let you get back to what you were doing.
Bye-bye.
Okay, what's the time? I really like that we've got that little clock there. Very handy. I use it a lot in this game because of other people's schedules. It might be too early to do this. Might have to be closer to 11:30. Oops. But we'll see. We'll give it a try. Yes.
Aha! That's it!
Lewis, are you in there?
I'll be right there.
I love that we get to actually spy on someone. Just feels extra sneaky and sleuthy, and it's great. I have to do this quickly because he can get caught. So 4, 6, 5, 3. And then on this side, 4, 8, 6, 4. 4, 8. Oops, 6. Is it not 4, 8, 6, 4? Did I go to the same one? That's what happened. 4, 8. Oh, which means I probably have to redo the other one. No. Did I write this down incorrectly? Might have this noted down somewhere else as well. Oh, I forgot to do something else earlier. 4, 8, 6, 8. There we go. I need to update that one sticky note. Oh, jeez Louise. Oh, are you kidding me? I wonder if I'm going to get caught. 4, 6, 5, 3. There we go. Unexpected. Oh, here we go. Gumbo Foo. It's a little reference to Rick Arlen from the previous game. Nice little touch. Okay. Let's leave. And let's call Emily, if I can.
Emily Foxworth speaking.
Hello, it's Nancy Drew.
Hi, Nancy. How's your case coming along?
What do you know about the Bandit's Treasure?
Bandit's Treasure? Oh, you mean the play? The Rep did a season where they performed old local plays, including the Bandit's Treasure. I've never seen it, but I hear the music is fantastic.
Have you heard of an antique dealer named Louis Chandler?
Nope, never heard of him.
Just gonna go through all these questions that I've accumulated, even though this is the one I really wanted to get to. Oops.
Have you heard of an actress, Lizzie Applegate?
Oh, sure, she was a good friend of Lotta Crabtree, another popular actress in the late 1800s. As I recall, she opened up a big hotel. What was it called? The Hotel Mandrake or the Oriental? I forget.
Was it in this neighborhood? Is it still around?
Oh no, this one was downtown. It was very big, but I think it burned down.
You don't actually have to go through all of these dialogue options. This one you do. Right now this is actually just to make the playthrough a little bit longer.
Have you ever come across hidden rooms in Victorian mansions?
No, but I've read that many houses were only partially rebuilt after the Great Earthquake, closing off damaged rooms from the rest of the house.
Do you know where Yerba Buena town is?
That's what San Francisco was called back during the Spanish colonial period, but no one calls it that anymore.
Let's skip that part.
Do you know what the words gumbo foo mean?
Sounds Chinese to me. Why don't you ask everyone what they think it means? It may have something to do with the house. In the meantime, I'll ask my friends about it. Gumbo Foo.
I should get going. Goodbye, Emily.
Talk to you later.
Let's not go talk to Lewis. We don't need to. I forgot to do something down in the saloon earlier. Should be able to do this even with Charlie here. Let's see. So those were the notes that were sort of highlighted in that piece of music up in the attic. Let's talk to Charlie.
Hey Nancy, I see you survived Abby's seance. Man, that Valdez guy sure sounded creepy.
I guess. Were you down here then? I don't remember seeing you.
Rose told me all about it. So how are things coming along? Anything I can help you out with?
Charlie, I found this diskette. I think it's yours.
I was wondering where it was. Thanks a lot, Nancy. Luckily, I had a backup at the school.
That must be an interesting paper you're writing.
Again, I'm
I've
just going to
started
go
to
through
write it,
these.
so I don't know very much about the robbery. It's hard to separate fact from fiction, especially when most of the information is based on rumors.
Was it El Diablo who stole the gold, or someone else?
I'm not sure. I've never heard that before.
How do you like working for Abby?
She's not bad. She can be a little weird. I think she gets on Rose's nerves sometimes.
What do you mean?
She always does a disappearing act whenever Rose needs her to do some work. And I think Rose has sort of had it, you know?
Abby thinks the house is haunted. Do you?
I'm not sure. Let's just say I wouldn't rule it out. But that's Abby's department, not mine.
Yeah, that is Abby's department for sure.
Had you come across any hidden passageways down here?
You mean like a trapdoor leading to a room with skeletons or something? No, I haven't.
Well, I don't think he's found any skeletons, but he has found a hidden door leading into a room.
I'll let you get back to your renovation.
I'll be here if you need me.
I'm going to ask him about gumbo food. Well, I don't know if you can after you've already asked Emily. Let's speak with Rose.
Hello.
Oh, we can. We
Do
can
you
ask
know
her.
what gumbo foo means?
No, not that I can remember.
How do you know Lewis?
He stopped by one day to introduce himself. He seemed awfully curious about our property, but he's an antique dealer specializing in the Victorian period. He's been extremely helpful advising us on authentic decor.
I can see you're busy. I'll let you go.
Goodbye.
I'm also wondering if there's a way to skip going into Abby's room. I'm not sure. Let's try to think of what to do. Go up to the attic. Fancy key. Less fancy key. Find Diego on stairs. We can do that.
It's stuck.
All right. Don't have these spindles memorized. I know I'm going about this very long way. Oh, perfect. Diego coins. False floor. This is brilliant. I think that's a great little puzzle. Okay, and then we need to speak with Lewis.
Hello, Nancy.
I was wondering whether you knew anything about someone named E. Valdez.
E. Valdez. No, I've never heard of that name. But I'll jot it down and let you know if I come across it anywhere.
What kind of antique store do you own?
It's a gallery, not a store. And it's called Chandler Interiors, specializing in the Victorian period. I have clients from all over the world, and if I don't have what they're looking for, I find it.
We have lots to talk to him about.
Was this house once a hotel?
That's hard to say. The house has been renovated many times, but several of its original features, such as the saloon and staircase, seem to indicate that it may have been a hotel. Unfortunately, there are no records on this house before 1906.
Do you think Charlie is doing a good job?
Certainly. He's rough around the edges, but he's reliable and learns very quickly. He's just what Rose and I need.
Do you know who Lizzie Applegate was?
Yes, I certainly do. She was a very popular actress in the late 1800s. She was very generous and left all of her money to the Ladies' Protection Society.
They really want me to ask about Gumbo Fu, even though I'm going to stick with the topic at hand, which is about the Ladies' Protection Society.
What was the Ladies' Protection Society?
A popular charity in the early 1900s. They helped widows and orphans.
And now the important question.
Do you know what Gumbo Fu means?
Where did you hear that?
Well, we have to lie.
I read about it in a magazine.
I see. As I recall, it means House of Great Books. After the Great Earthquake, many books and documents were stored in private homes to save them from the fires. The Chinese called those houses Gumbo Fu.
If you tell the truth and mention that you read about it in a book, you basically get booted out because Lewis suspected that someone had been snooping through his briefcase, and then you have to go through second chance. So, Nancy has to be bad and lie.
I won't keep you any longer.
Good day.
And so far we've managed to skip the fire. Let's speak with Abby about Gumbo and Gumbo Fu and this cool little trick with the mirror.
Hi, Nancy.
Do you know what Gumbo Fu means?
Gumbo Fu? I love gumbo. What kind of gumbo is Gumbo Fu?
I'll let you get back to what you were doing.
Pax vobiscum.
I don't know what that translates to. I know on the message board, whenever there were things in other languages, some of the members had posted what they translated to in English. I don't recall that one. I don't know if I've even ever seen a translation of it.
I'm glad you dropped by.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to tell you that you'll be alone in the house for a while. Everyone is going to the winter festival, and Charlie's studying for finals. I also took down one of the tapestries in your room for dry cleaning, and what was the other thing? Oh, a messenger dropped off a letter for you. I put it in your room.
I can see you're busy. I'll let you go.
Goodbye.
We only ever get that one option when speaking to Rose to acknowledge how busy she is, which doesn't flow very well, like with that last conversation, so that's a bit unfortunate. So we never actually snooped through Abby's room. You don't have to. You can go through the game without going through her room, and same with the fire. That dialogue or that conversation we just had with Rose is what tells us we're at the end of the game. So there's now no chance for that fire to happen. You could still snoop through Abby's room if you didn't have the information for these puzzles, because like this, technically I haven't found it in the game, but I have it all written down in my childhood notebook that came with the game. A little paperback, not paperback, but paper notebook that says "From the Desk of Nancy Drew." So, where is that one? Start with a rat. Is it the one I can't see? No, there it is. Ox. What are my other options? There's an ox and a goat. So that's probably the ox here. Tiger. Rabbit. Dragon. I always thought this looked like a crab. Apparently it's a dragon. Snake. Horse. Goat. Monkey. Rooster. Dog. And this must be a boar. I can't see it. There we go. Oh yes, the little piggy. And then the save combination. And you find all of these symbols throughout the mansion, and the order of them comes from that poem that's beside Nancy's bedroom door. So this is our first symbol. Next we need the four-sided box. That's not that one, not the four-sided box, pardon me. We want... Did I go? I went right past it. I'm half looking at my notes, half looking at the screen. That's what we wanted next. And then the one that looks like a 4 with a line through it. Now the four-sided box. one that looks like an E with an extra mahuzit. To me that looks like an E and something else. And then fire. And then one that looks like an F with an extra mahuzit. One that looks like a fancy I, like the letter I. 3 lines. That was a river. And the one I didn't draw but looks like a house. Elizabeth Valdez, her last will and testament. So we have this story between Lizzie Applegate and Diego, which is kind of sweet. Okay, and I like this. You get a bunch of puzzles all at once. So, well, the first thing's not a puzzle. You just put in a piece that fits, and then you have to change these moons all to suns. This is a puzzle that I don't remember how to do, so I am just going to fiddle and hopefully get it right. Remind myself what I'm trying to do. They need to all be suns. There we go. And then the last puzzle, another slider puzzle. If you don't know the image, it's found in 2 places. One is in a book in the library. The other we saw earlier is in the or on the floor in the entranceway of the mansion. Okay, this picture I don't quite have memorized. That's gonna go there, but I need the side pieces first. It's a quarter piece, okay. So I need that. Let's go like that. Oh, I need that piece first. There we go, so I got that first little bit. And then we need that piece. This piece. I don't normally do the middle pieces next, they just happen to kind of fall that way. I need this piece to go after this one, so I'm going to go about it this way. And then we need that piece next. And the piece that goes after it is already in the right spot. Doesn't quite work the way I want it to. I have to think about this. Which piece is missing? Is it the top piece or is it the, oh, it's the top piece that's missing. Okay. That means and that goes there and that goes after it. Okay. Not right. This has to go after that one, so I go like, rats. This is gonna be, oh, not so bad. There we go. Alrighty. genuinely, like, at the end of the game. Is 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning? Hang on. Let's try this. I think there are 2 times a day you can do this, like at 6 a.m., but I think maybe in the evening as well. Let's try it at 5 p.m. Of course, I could have just set the alarm for 6 a.m. and I totally ignored or forgot actually about this letter. So again, it's information you need for the game, but if you don't actually look at it, as long as you've received it, you can still move forward. So that was the last symbol I put in the safe. Oh, and I've finally gotten this letter. Everything's really out of order from how this normally plays. Creepy. Will this work? Oh, I've moved too far. Yes, it does. So it works at 5 in the evening. And this is the ending. Just a couple minutes to go. And I've skipped a lot. Like, this is really quite a speed through, which wasn't the plan.
Gold! And to think I was standing on it all along.
Ugh.
Too bad no one will ever find out about it.
Louis?
I knew it! There must be over $1 million in here.
I've got to stop him before he gets away.
Make sure to take the stairs that don't creak. Otherwise you get caught and you have to do a second chance. So I made this easy by having already unhooked it 1 loop.
What? Hey!
God, that hurt.
Hey! Hey! Get me out of here!
Dear Bess, I'm just about finished with my renovation work and counting out all of those gold coins. Louis was behind all of the accidents, hoping to pressure Rose into selling the house so he could find the treasure himself. Although Rose and Abby may not have a legal right to the gold, the bank the coins were stolen from will still give them a reward for finding it. The house also has gotten a lot of publicity with all of the news stories, and the place is booked solid for the first month of its opening. I guess a haunted bed and breakfast with hidden treasures is all the rage these days, even if there are no such things as ghosts. I think. See you soon, Nancy.
And there we go. We are done. Played the game in just over an hour. This was actually shorter, I think, than playing Secrets Can Kill, which I always thought of as the shortest game. But I skipped a lot. I managed to go through the game without having the fire happen in the parlor and without snooping through Abby's room. And if you know, I've said this in previous playthroughs, if you know the sequence of events, you can get through these really quickly. You can get a lot of things done, like in this game, when you do the snooping that first evening. You can find all these things, put things together, and prepared for the next day when you need to speak with people, when you need to spy on people. You can get through this game in a very short amount of time. I'm sort of surprised actually by how quickly I went through this, and I don't think I've ever played it without going through Abby's room before. So that was kind of a neat discovery with this playthrough. Interesting. Well, there we go. There we have it. So that's a playthrough of one of my favorite games, Message in a Haunted Mansion. Again, this is the 3rd game released by Her Interactive of their Nancy Drew Adventure series. It's 22 years old, or just about. It was released in the fall of 2000. So I guess 21 and a half years old. And I think after all these years, it still holds up. I mean, the graphics are maybe not as great as they could be, but graphics have never been a concern of mine. For me, it's always been about the story. And I love this story. I think it's a really good mystery that you kind of come into. I mean, you're invited there to help with renovations, but you know ahead of time that something's going on because there have been some accidents. But you aren't actually invited for the sake of solving a mystery. You kind of stumble onto it. And I think it's really fun, and I like that Nancy's there to help out. I love this setting. I love being in the mansion, and I love that you're stuck there. That was always one of my favorite elements, was being in one place, not having to go from one location to another. Some of my favorite games take place in one spot. So this one, Treasure in the Royal Tower, Deadly Device. I like being confined, in this case, to a single location. One of my favorite things about this game is the music. It's definitely one of the best of the bunch, in my opinion. I think it sets the tone so well. You're in this place that's supposedly haunted, and all the music is a little bit eerie. And every now and then there's the odd sound effect that's kind of spooky. It might set you on edge. It's really great. And all the things that Abby set up, which I didn't actually look at in this playthrough, also really adds to that mood, that feeling you have in the mansion. So overall, just a perfect game. Again, this was my second game, quite a bit different from the first I played, which was the first of the series, Secrets Can Kill. You get two very different vibes, and I really like that. You're getting some diversity, even within the first 3 games, and it continues on very well, really, for the rest of the series. You get these different kinds of mysteries, and I just think it's great. I really love this game. I really can't say that enough. So I hope you enjoyed watching and or listening. I hope you found it intriguing how much you can skip in this game. Again, I sort of learned with this playthrough that you don't ever have to go into Abby's room. I knew you could bypass the fire scene, and I did intentionally try this time. I hadn't even thought about the fact that I hadn't looked at Emily's note, and I didn't get that threatening message until right before the end. So some of these things can happen. It almost feels like out of sequence, or can happen that you don't have to use in the game. You don't have to look at that letter as long as you already have the information. You can still play through it. Alright, with that, I'm going to let you guys go. My next video will either be a comparison between the book Message in a Haunted Mansion and this game, or it could be a playthrough for Treasure in the Royal Tower, whichever comes first. Right, thank you very much for your time. I hope you've had fun. I know I have. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye now.